What do you do when a situation happens that makes you feel bad or makes you feel stressed? Do you find yourself going inward as the worry voice takes over and takes you through all the scary scenarios that could happen? All the while you're starting to feel more and more stressed about the situation? In this video, one of the things I want to show you is a way to deal with the bad situations that make you worry, that keep you feeling stressed and keep you feeling down. I'm Gav, and this is I Want to Know How to Feel Good. If this is the first video that you've seen on my channel, then what I'm going to discuss in this video won't make much sense until you watch this playlist of 3 videos right here. In this video, we'll be talking about only 2 subjects today, as they are more advanced ways of using the method. The 2 subjects are opening Pandora's box, what to do when you feel scared or apprehensive to blend with a particular feeling or even a painful memory. And we'll be talking about how to use the blending method to deal with life's stressful situations. But first, let's learn how to deal with feeling scared or apprehensive to blend with feelings by learning how to throw the salt. You may have found by now that during a blending session, everything is going well. You're working your way through the emotional compound by blending with each feeling at a time that your emotional self tells you to blend with, or of what you can think of to blend with yourself. But sometimes your emotional self will give you a thought that makes you feel scared to blend with your feelings. Or some days you might find that even before you start blending with your feelings, you can somehow sense that the feelings make you feel scared or apprehensive to begin working with them. And while you're choosing a memory to work on as a topic, some memories may seem impossible to live with, let alone start working on, making you feel scared and uncertain if you should even work with this memory, even before you start blending with your feelings surrounding this topic. Whenever you're experiencing apprehension or uncertainty about blending with your feelings, you could say that it feels like that you're about to open Pandora's box, in that if you carry on working this way, you'll end up with unexpected and troublesome thoughts and feelings to blend with. But the way to deal with these experiences is simple. Please let me explain by giving you an analogy to make it easier to remember what to do. During the 90s, a UK TV station started showing sumo wrestling. This was the first time that I'd seen this martial art, and I was fascinated by the traditions of the athletes, which the English commentators informed the viewer on. Though I've recently learned that something that the commentators said was actually incorrect, I remember the commentators saying that sumo wrestlers throw salt into the ring before each bout to show how scared they are of facing their opponent. I later found out that sumo wrestlers throw salt into the ring before each bout to purify the ring, as it's viewed as a sacred place. There was a sumo wrestler whose nickname was the Salt Shaker, as he threw a huge handful of salt into the ring, and as he did, the crowd would always cheer. Whereas other sumo wrestlers would throw a small to medium amount of salt into the ring. While I was discovering this self-help system, I would often think of the sumo wrestler known as the Salt Shaker, as he was a big guy who had a very powerful look in his eye, which always made me think that he was a true warrior and a guy not to be messed with. But before each bout, he would throw a huge handful of salt into the ring, which the English commentator said represented his fear. During a blending session, I sometimes felt like I'd opened Pandora's box, as I felt scared and apprehensive or just uncertainty of what my emotional self showed me to blend with next. Or sometimes I was just scared to blend with a particular memory, as if you're anything like me, some of my past memories felt impossible to be reminded of, let alone start blending with. When this happened from time to time, I soon learned that I had to throw the salt and blend with my feelings of fear first, before I even thought about stepping into the ring to blend with my feelings about the next topic. Whenever you feel like you've opened Pandora's box, and you feel the fear and apprehension to carry on with blending with your feelings, it's essential that you throw the salt and start blending with your feelings of fear and apprehension first before you carry on with the original topic. As you throw the salt, think of as many feelings as you can that make you feel scared, apprehensive, shy, or frightened and confused, and even delicate, to blend with those feelings. And look out for your emotional self giving you thoughts telling you what feelings of fear to blend with next, of why you are scared and what you are frightened will happen. Or, when you think of a painful memory that made you feel scared and apprehensive to start blending with this topic, it's essential that you throw the salt and start blending with the feelings that make you feel scared to even begin. You can, of course, just ignore these feelings of fear, apprehension, and uncertainty. It won't harm you in any way, but you'll see for yourself that if you do choose to ignore them, they will start to grow in intensity. This is why I encourage the importance of becoming an expert observer, as becoming an expert observer will make it easy for you to pick up on the feelings of fear and apprehension to blend with a particular topic or a new thought that comes to you. You can also throw the salt in your daily life by blending with the feelings you experience before you have to, let's say, go into a work meeting, or if you have any public speaking to do, or before you meet new people. You can throw the salt by blending with the feelings of fear and apprehension you experience if any unexpected change happens in your life. Learning ways to deal with the fear and apprehension of things that may happen in your future is important to learn, as we can never switch off our fears, but we can learn to deal with our fears so they don't grow too big or get too out of hand. As I was working through this self-help system, I felt like I had a lot on, as I chose to help myself to feel better rather than using any other means available to me. But what I found was that life didn't always want to make it easy for me. And you know what? Looking back, I'm glad that life didn't make it easy, as I found a way to not only deal with the stress and worry caused by life's hard situations, but I also found that my general confidence growing as a knock-on effect of finding a way to deal with my painful emotions in any situation. Be it a call from one of my negative friends who, just after 5 minutes of talking to them, made me feel tense for the rest of the day. Missing a payment bill date, which put me even further into debt. A drunk driver crashing into my car. To even comedy shows that ended up telling jokes about rape and paedophilia, which caused me to feel terrible, amongst many other things that happened while I was working through this self-help system. Whenever I seemed to be making progress and starting to feel better, I always found that life had a way to make me feel bad again. But I noticed over time that when something bad happened in my life, sometimes the situation stayed with me. Whenever I thought about the situation, I'd feel emotional tension and pain somewhere in my body. But other times when something bad happened, I didn't feel any emotional tension or pain when I thought about it. Instead, I just felt the feelings that the situation caused. For example, I once remember a taxi driver shouting and swearing at me because I asked him to wait for an elderly gentleman who was hailing a taxi. When I went home and calmed down a bit, I didn't feel much emotional tension or pain, if any at all, but instead I just felt angry at the taxi driver having a go at me in public. I remember another time though, when a woman rolled down her window of her car and called me a stupid fat for tripping in front of her as I crossed the road, which made her have to slow down a bit. When I got home and calmed down this time, I saw that what the woman said to me stayed with me, and it even stopped me from sleeping that night. The reason why this second situation hurt more than the first was because when I thought about the second situation, it created a lot of emotional tension and pain in my body. If something has happened in your life recently that when you think about it still causes you emotional tension or pain, you have the opportunity to start blending with your feelings in the same way that you have been to deal with your recent stressful situation. Whenever something bad happens to you that makes you feel stressed, sad, scared or angry, or just makes you feel tense, be it a conversation about a painful subject for you, which happens at the wrong time or with the wrong person, somebody arguing with you, being subjected to someone's road rage, being bullied at work, or just a stressful meeting with the boss, or be it a TV program or a scene in a movie you're watching, or literally anything outside yourself which makes you feel bad, terrible, stressed and worried. When you're in a safe place and your emotions have settled down about the situation, think about the situation again. If the situation still causes you emotional tension or emotional pain somewhere in your body, then you can use the situation as a topic to blend with the feelings of. Remembering to throw the salt if you feel scared or apprehensive to start blending with the feelings of the situation. But when you begin, try using the first instruction command if you are experiencing feelings of tension and pain in the body, and if you don't have any thoughts about the situation coming to mind, until you've gotten rid of most of the emotional tension and pain in your body, or until you start to become aware of thoughts to blend with next. Thoughts which are about the situation that happened. When you start to feel better than you did before you started blending with the session, you can switch to the second version of the instruction command and use this method to blend with all of the feelings associated with a bad situation in as many ways as you can think of. Putting structure to blending with a stressful situation. It's easier to blend with the feelings caused by a stressful situation by breaking the situation down into smaller pieces, and blend with the feelings that you had about each piece of the situation. Spend time going through each part of the situation and blend with the feelings about each different part. For example, when the woman rolled down the window and started calling me names, I broke the situation down into different parts. When I thought about me tripping in front of people and hitting the ground, I blended with the feelings that made me feel embarrassed, panicked, frustrated, flustered, ashamed, humiliated, regretful, and distressed, and whatever else came to mind or whatever else I could think of. When I thought about when the woman shouted at me, I blended with the feelings that made me feel fear, anxious, frightened, terror, dread, and anger, and anything else that I could think of. I found thoughts coming to mind, thoughts that told me things like, the woman was right to shout at me. So I blended with all of the feelings that I could think of and that came to mind about this thought. Another thought came to mind, telling me that I had no right to answer the woman back. So I blended with the feelings that made me feel that I had no right to answer her back. And again, all of the feelings that came to mind and any other feeling that I could think of around this step. A thought came to mind that told me that it was my fault for crossing the road. But when this thought came to mind, I noticed that I felt a little bit apprehensive to blend with this thought, as I was only crossing the road and the woman only had to slow down. It's not like she had to do an emergency stop. So I threw the salt and blended with the feelings that made me feel scared, angry, vulnerable, weak, exposed, unsafe, and confused as why I would think that it was my fault, and anything else that I could think of. Then, once I didn't feel apprehension anymore, I blended with the feelings that made me feel that I shouldn't have even crossed the road, and all of the other feelings that I could think of on this part of the situation and anything else that came to mind, and so on. After around 15 minutes of blending with this topic, which is a long time to spend on such a small incident, I realised that I felt much better than I did, so I put the blending session that I just had to the test and thought about the situation again, and I felt, well, I didn't really feel much about anything. The emotional tension had definitely gone, and it was difficult to say how I was feeling, as I didn't really feel anything at all when I thought about the situation again. I then started to think things like it wasn't really a big deal, and I actually tried to feel the way that I did before I began blending with my feelings, but found that I was unable to experience those feelings again. If you've had a recent stressful situation, meaning that something happened still causes you emotional tension or emotional pain in your body, I encourage you to give this process a try. Start by blending with the feelings of emotional tension and pain, either until you begin to feel better than you did, and you can then start blending with what you experienced during the situation, or blend with the feelings of emotional tension and pain until you begin to receive thoughts about the situation. Then break the situation down into steps by blending with the feelings associated with each part of the situation. Start by blending with the feelings that you can think of about that particular part, and remembering to be an expert observer and look out for any thoughts about that part of the situation that comes to mind, so you can blend with them too. If a thought comes to mind that makes you feel scared, apprehensive, or uncertain to blend with those feelings, throw the salt and blend with the feelings of apprehension in as many ways that you can think of, or whatever comes to mind, until you begin to feel better about blending with a thought that made you feel apprehensive. Then, once you've finished your blending session, think of the recent situation again, and you'll see that it doesn't hurt you like it did, and you may even feel nothing about the recent situation that used to hurt you. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. I'll end by saying that while I was working with these methods, I made lots of mistakes and I got stuck quite a lot of the time. If you have thoughts telling you that you must get this right every time, then try blending with as many feelings that you can think of and the feelings that come to mind that make you feel this way. What's happening here is that you're not just learning how to feel better and learning new ways to deal with your emotional pain, but you're actually learning a different language, which is the language of your feelings. Learning any new language is difficult, which is why it's important to focus on progress and not perfection. With that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.